All right, I'm going to let these guys cut loose because I'm here talking all the time. So this is the Nebraska show. So we'll start with Greg in terms of you guys slicing up Michigan, Nebraska.
Yeah, I just what I've kind of noticed with Michigan over the course of the season is they seem to have gotten better in the run game and wanted to run the ball more. However, Donovan Edwards hasn't really played up to what we anticipated. Blake Corum, insanely efficient. I think he has 8 touchdowns on 50 something carries. It's like a 13%. It's wild. He's averaging over 6 a carry. But do you think that that is going to be an issue in the game, or do you think Donovan Edwards is just going to be a matter of him having to step up and doing it? Because so it seems like both of our running back rooms are slightly top heavy. So what's your take on that?
Yeah. So obviously I think the guys are going to be fired up. You got to look with Donovan. Remember, he's a hybrid running and receiving running back. So he also has exactly 100 yards in the air. So he's used in reverses. He's used in kind of RPO concepts a lot. So Blake Corum is definitely your number one running back, rushing yards. Obviously, like you said, 8 touchdowns. It's pretty great already. But Donovan Edwards will be used, and don't forget JJ is going to be used too. So JJ will run on the perimeter. He'll keep it if he doesn't see a read open. And he's a dynamic player, and he's really tough to defend against.
And he's making great decisions. His decision making has improved significantly. I've noticed, and he's completing at almost an 80% clip. So insanely efficient. So that's going to be really tough to stop. So we're going to have to really stay in man. But the offense, the 2 receivers over 200 yards, but they're both averaging over 17 per reception. So do you see them trying to maybe beat us over the top or explosive, or do you think they're just going to kind of nickel and dime and control the pace of the clock like they normally do? Because that's what they're doing a great job of, is just shortening the game, and the opponents can't score. I know their defensive numbers aren't quite the same as Nebraska's, but they've also been on the field a lot less. They're really getting off the field quickly. So
I think it'll be a similar game plan. Rutgers, obviously great, 19th going into that game. They were 19th ranked defense in the country.
Very physical.
Very physical. Shiano always has really physical Rutgers teams. And so the game plan was very simple. It was keep the Rutgers defense on the field as much as humanly possible. Let's it's Jim Harbaugh's MO. That's what he's done the whole time he's been at Michigan, and his other stops too. Pound the rock, pass when you have to. It goes all the way back to San Diego and Stanford days. Same thing. Strong O lines. And so, to your point, I think you're exactly right. I think they're going to have like 12, 13 play drives, long drives, running the football, with some JJ runs mixed in, with some short slants mixed in, and with the occasional deep ball to Roman Wilson, who has been, the red zone answer for Michigan these last few
8
games.
touchdowns too, I think, or 6, something like that. But another thing too is Drake Nugent. Well, the entire offensive line is playing at a high level, but Drake Nugent being one of the top centers in the league, that's going to be a tough test, with our run defense being number 1 in the country as far as I think total yards per game and maybe even average. But that battle of the trenches there, do you see? I mean, do you see a clear advantage for Michigan, or do you think, based on what you've seen, the way Nebraska schemes up the 3-5, because Michigan has struggled with the 3-5 in the past, do you think that's going to cause issues with that offensive line, just seeing different looks and different styles of blitzes and stuff like that?
I think in the first quarter it's going to be. So if you watched in the early part of the Rutgers game, obviously Rutgers scored a touchdown right away. And then Michigan obviously, struggled a bit when they took the field, and it took some time for both sides of the ball to gel. On the O-line in particular, they're finally taking the advice that we had on Michigan Wolverines Live, and we said put Ladarius Henderson at left tackle and we said put Carson Barnhart at right tackle and then put Trente Jones as number 6, right, on either side for that 6th personnel.
Yep.
And they finally, I think, are going to that at the end of the last game. They finally were in that set. So if that's the case, if you see that exact personnel group, look out, because I think you've got the best possible matchup there in the O-line. But yeah, 3-3-5 has not been the easiest for us. It hasn't.
You don't see it a ton too.
You don't see it a ton, but you know, I don't know the DC super well. I mean, obviously, Jim, you know, we had you know, TCU. They scheme very well. You know, there's other times that we've had the 3-3-5 that, you know, we've done better against them. So yeah, it just depends.
Got it. All right, Greg, I've taken enough time.
You got me. I'm good.
Well, can I ask a question? Because I want your quarterback. So I was actually just watching some Nebraska film while I was working out and, you know, trying to prepare for these shows and the 8 p.m. And I was watching Harburg just run, and these crazy touchdown runs. He also passed the ball, I think, semi-effectively at times, but his running ability is something that Michigan is going to struggle with, because the one area that Michigan's defense struggles more than any others is running quarterbacks. So that's an area that they're going to have to adjust, and they're going to have to adjust quickly.
Yeah.
So what do you think about how he's going to do?
Well, you know, he runs physically. I mean, you know, and he can't run for a long period of time. Apparently, he gets pretty gassed. But no, he is a strong runner. He always has been. I mean, back in high school when I covered him, hell, he was the gunner on the punt team. You know, he did everything, and you know, he's finally been unleashed. I mean, you know, coming from a guy that, you know, came here and, you know, has been on the scout team for a couple of years, then questions being asked if you're open to playing other positions starting, you know, in spring camp. And then, you know, just Coach Rule and Coach Satterfield believing in him. And, you know, you just don't want this to go to his head. I mean, he's a humble guy. But it was funny yesterday. Matt Rule had said, "I don't want to see a local restaurant with a Harburger, you know, offered on the menu." But you know, I've always known that he could do this.
Yeah.
And you know, he's been very effective when he's come in. I mean, both of them can kick you in the teeth with the run. Or Jeff Sims. I mean, you know, that's been both of their, you know, best traits so far. But yeah, I mean, Nebraska's kind of finding a new identity where it's run first right now. And that's what they're really, you know, they're emphasizing in practice and stuff. So the passing game is still a work in progress, basically, to everybody. And with all the injuries that they've been dealing with skill position guys, you know, you're plugging in defensive backs into the wide receiver spot.
And even Harburg even has a reception on the season. So when Sims was starting, so I think the game comes easier to him because I don't think the decision making is as hard because he's just a hard-nosed football player. So I think he just knows how to make the plays and just make sure he gets yards in some way. And you know, the receiver room, you know, they've had some drops and stuff like that. And he even had a long, I think, 50+ yard touchdown call back in that last game too. So
saw that.
And he's got some speed when he gets in the open field. You know, he'll outrun some guys in the open field, but 6'5", just a load to bring down, and just a good football player. And I don't know if Michigan fans know the story. Grew up as a Nebraska fan, Nebraska kid. So yeah.
Well, he went to Kearney Catholic, and like I mentioned, I mean, he was the quarterback. He played safety. He was the kicker, the punter.
That's crazy.
And he was the gunner on the punt team. He was the kick returners on punt return and kick return. So he never came off the field. And, always towered over pretty much everybody. Kearney Catholic was a Class C school, so always a very impressive athlete. But actually, a family was from Louisiana and had moved here when he was a couple years old, and made Kearney their home. So,
Nice.
So he's kind of grown up a Nebraska kid, and but even back in high school, this is where he wanted to come, and now he's the starting quarterback at Nebraska, which is pretty good. For there haven't been very many of them from the state of Nebraska lately here in the program. So, yeah, he's doing a really good job of handling things.
Yeah, Cole, our buddy who, by the way, Cole, appreciate you going on all the shows. I mean, he's one of our the biggest supporters on Voice of College Football, and I think this is extremely accurate. When I think of this guy, I think of Taysom Hill and all the different areas that he can attack you when he's at the quarterback position. Now, I actually think that your guy is a little bit more accurate than Taysom Hill last time he was under center.
Yep.
Harbert can make some throws, and I saw. I literally went up through almost every play of both of the last two games, and he was making some solid throws. And he's your best rusher.
Yeah,
I literally just saw he is literally your best rusher on the team.
Right now, yeah.
He struggles with the deep ball, but the short to intermediate pass game, very, very efficient.
Yeah, your top three rushers are Harburg, Anthony Grant, and then Jeff Sims would be number 3. So, yeah.
The biggest thing that I've made a point on before is Nebraska lost Trey Palmer in the offseason. So, having a guy like Trey Palmer, he had he set basically every receiving record at Nebraska. Casey Thompson had a little over 2,000 yards. Trey Palmer had over 1,000 receiving. So, if Jeff Sims had a guy like that right now, I don't feel like he has a true one. Marcus Washington has the ability to be that, but he's had some drops and stuff like that. So it's been Billy Kemp, really. It's the inconsistencies in wide receiver room more so than it is him. But I think people don't take that into account. That if he had Trey Palmer, I mean, it'd be a completely different story because he could blow the top off the defense. So
you just have a bunch of freshmen basically. Yeah. In the background here that are still trying to learn, what's going on at this level. So you see him getting Malachi Coleman more and more snaps.
Yep.
And Jalen Lloyd more and more snaps. But it just takes time for these freshmen.
Exactly.
Not everybody can step right in and be a superstar. So.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, losing Trey Palmer definitely hurt, but
Gabe is Irvin Jr. I saw him as kind of an impact player.
He was playing well until the season-ending injury. Yeah.
Yep. Him and Ramir.
The same.
So they're out for the rest of the year.
Yep.
That's tough. That's why we're down to basically Anthony Grant, and then second on our depth chart was Emmett Johnson, who's a redshirt freshman, and then we have Quentin Ives down there, who's a true freshman. So it's just a lot of inexperience, and these guys haven't got reps. And against a team like Michigan, it is going to be a battle of attrition. So that's going to take a huge toll. So it's just a matter of how well they can balance the offense, so they can make sure those guys are fresh there in the later part of the game.
Bone-Led Corn-Fed here is reminding us that we can also go the route of forgetting all reasonable analysis, and you can just bleed your team's colors and make comments like this. We will run on Michigan. Why, you ask? Because we are Nebraska and they're not.
You gotta love it. I think that's a great comment.
He always comes in with a great comment.
I want all Nebraska fans to be like that. Like you gotta get it heated up.
Hey, two of the 8 all-time winningest programs in college football history.
Too many letdowns for me to say that. I just keep my expectations realistic at this point. I'm going to be at the game, so
Nebraska's looking for win 915 in program history. Come on, go Big Red.
Big
Is
question.
this
are we
could
still in
this
the field?
settle could this settle the 97 national championship once?
That's
Hey,
already
We've got to
settled.
settle it
it
at
will.
That's already
some point.
settled.
Yeah, I think it will to Nebraska fans.
That's been
Yes.
settled.
John, this is a good year to pick out as being the one that's going to settle 1997. You could have done that last year too.
No,
True,
that doesn't count.
true.
No,
But that was in Ann Arbor, so
don't kick us while
Yeah.
we're down.
almost 2021 almost had you.
Yep. And Never Mind Me had a good point with the Chancellor Brewington breakdown with the freshman having a huge playbook to learn, because he kind of broke it down because he was played on the offense last year. So yeah, a lot of interesting perspectives from him there too. If anybody wants to check out those videos that we posted on the channel, me and him. So, and if for anybody interested, we are recording today too. So that way, that video is going to be coming tomorrow probably.
You know what's
Yeah.
interesting is this is only the 15th meeting between Nebraska and Michigan.
That is
Wow.
kind of wild, actually.
Yeah. Given the proximity of the two, it's not like they're across the country.
I guess it makes sense with the Big 12 though, up until
Right.
so.